Hello and welcome to the Global Electronics Report. It's 8 o'clock in the West Coast, 11 o'clock on the East Coast, 4 o'clock in the UK and 5 o'clock in the Central Europe. My name is Trevor Galbraith and welcome to the show. This week we're going to be talking about Semicon West, which took place, of course, in San Francisco. Our West Coast correspondent and founder of Scoop Communications, Phil Stoughton, was there to report on what was happening. Hey, welcome Phil, nice to see you. I hope you enjoyed San Francisco last week. Perhaps you could start by giving us your views on the show and what was new there and any new products that may have grabbed your attention.
Yeah, thank you, Trevor. I think the show was very interesting. It's always quite a busy show, but like a lot of the big shows, the level of traffic seems to be getting smaller as the exhibition themselves seem to get larger. So some of the aisles were pretty quiet. I think one of the key topics which came through from John Kern's keynote, John Kern is from Cisco, was the whole idea of using IoT and using IoT to connect everything through the supply chain. So connecting distribution, devices, right through to manufacturing and fulfillment. So that was a very important area of it. They had some interesting features on the show floor in terms of different forums, and Akil from Riverwood gave a presentation on IoT and the supply chain and how that was helping innovative companies bring their products to market and perhaps reducing that time to profit and that time to actually getting product on the shelves, which is a big challenge in Silicon Valley. So that was interesting. I would say in terms of technology, we've got the usual Semicon fare of those incremental improvements, lots and lots of talk about test, hybrid test, different kinds of test. And interestingly, one or two people that were saying they were being asked to do work with larger features that were almost a hybrid crossover from Semicon to SMT than just that constant drive for smaller features. Right. But I think IoT and the transformative nature of IoT was the biggest area.
Right, yeah, and that certainly came across in the clip that you recorded with Peter Gillespie, the director of SEMI. Let's listen to some of the things that he had to say.
Peter, thanks for joining me. Start by telling me a little bit about what's new at the show this year and what's really been attracting attention.
Okay, great. Yeah, this year it's really much more about the whole supply chain, the extended electronics manufacturing supply chain, where we really brought in people that are not just the customer, but our customers' customers that are driving the next application areas. So we have World of IoT, which is really all about all the connected devices that are coming our way. Basically, everything is going to be talking to everything else. And really for us, personally, we have a lot of involvement in the industrial IoT, where factories are really using a lot more sensors and bringing those to increase productivity and also cost-effective reliability and uptime. We have programs on automotive with the new proliferation of autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles. There's a lot more electronics that are required, and so those requirements we're getting directly from the automotive folks being delivered straight to the people that are manufacturing the chips and the whole extended supply chain. We are also bringing in other adjacent industries that are really being integrated into electronics components, like flexible hybrid electronics. So for wearables that might have a chip but has flexible and printed components, and how that all works together, and MEMS and sensors that really power it all. There's programs for all that, and people on the show all around us that participate in all those areas.
Well, a lot of different things coming together there, Phil. You can see printed electronics, hybrid features, etc. One of the sessions that I heard a lot about last week was the power electronics section. They were very heavily attended, the sessions. So I'm wondering if that's driven by the increasing features in automotive electronics, for example.
Yeah, I think power is a big part of the whole electronics equation, and we're seeing that not just at Semicon, we're seeing that at the other events as well. Dealing with power, dealing with battery life, for example, is really interesting. I heard one presenter talking at actually another event the same week at the Wearables Tech event, talking about batteries and saying, actually battery power isn't a problem, it's what we're prepared to pay for batteries that is a problem. Right. He's saying you could get a battery that lasted a week in an iPhone, providing you were prepared to pay about $1,000 more for your iPhone. So I think the whole energy, power usage, and also high power in terms of test is is a big feature. Interesting what you said about attendance at those forums, because I think one of the things we're seeing is an element of small events being brought into big events to help them maintain some success, and that's these show floor theatres. They had 4 theatres in different areas with some really good content, really good audiences. I was between the IoT area and the innovations area most of the time, and they were back-to-back 15-minute presentations, really punchy, and a full audience throughout. Right. The other things that I thought they did that were clever to get people to the event is they had shuttle service from downtown San Jose, so they were busing people in from their headquarters, from SEMI headquarters on Zanca Road, which is right in the thick of Milpitas in San Jose. So that was a big success. Lots of people doing these innovation forums or innovation pavilions now. Right. They work to a certain extent. I'm not really quite sure who they bring, because they're bringing a lot of people that have got business to consumer products to the event. And they had the obligatory hackathon, which everybody seems to want to have at their events.
Yeah, I mean, it was going across the whole spectrum of the supply chain, really. And you talked again a little bit more about this with Peter Gillespie. Here's some more.
How important is it for a show like SEMI to involve those other sectors of the supply chain, pretty much from order point all the way through to fulfillment of the product?
Well, I think it's really important now as really the end markets have fragmented a lot, and it's not now where you make a component and expect it to be used everywhere. People need specific application components, and so really getting everybody together to synchronize that supply chain is critical. But one area where you see it all come together, and there's a number of packaging conference elements, there's a number of packaging events, because where chips meet other interfaces is becoming critically important, and it brings in photonics, it brings in MEMS, it brings in flexible hybrid electronics, and how those all interface in a reliable way in the smallest possible form factor is something that only can be worked out with participation of everyone. And SEMI also, in addition to the trade show, we do the standards that keep us all synchronized together.
Okay, some interesting stuff there, Phil, but looking at the Semicon West show in its entirety, I mean, this show 10 years ago was a much bigger event. The back-end packaging was located down in San Jose, and all the front end took up the whole of the Moscone Centre. Now, of course, the industry has changed with manufacturing moving offshore. It's a much smaller event. Still a big one, because you're talking about 711 exhibitors, I believe, and 115 hours of programming going on. Yeah. So it's still a big event by any standard. But China, of course, taking the lead because all the fabs are over there. Let's talk a little bit about where SEMI sees their future going.
Yeah, I talked to Peter about that, and we talked a bit about the transition to China. And it's interesting, SEMI China is a big show, but actually, it's something we've all lived. When you look back at NEPCON West as an example, NEPCON was a great brand in the US, and it was a really big show, and it was very successful. And it kind of lost its way, dwindled away. Apex came along, IPC Expo took the bare board section, and then they've relocated and brought that back together. The same's happened with Semicon and the shows in Asia, particularly the show in China. China's the flagship, but the other shows are very significant in Thailand and Malaysia and the different areas. So we're seeing that trend everywhere. But I also think there's a challenge for these events to stay relevant as big events. You and I attend a lot of these small, one-day, very focused, very juicy events that can really explore one topic really well. And I think they're gaining in popularity, not just from the visitor, because it's much easier to get out local to you for one day, but also from the sponsor or exhibitor, who can actually get focus leads on one topic and can get a lot of value out of a relatively modest investment. So right. I think the industry change, the events industry is going through a bit of a shake-up and change, and people are asking questions about where they best get value.
Yeah, and you certainly asked some pretty interesting questions to Peter in this last segment I want to show you, which covers just these areas, China and these other shows.
Semicon West has been around a long time. The SEMI shows around the world have been around a long time. How do you keep them fresh? How do you keep reinventing? Is it the customers, the members that are driving, or where do the ideas come from?
Well, from the customers, absolutely. This is the 46th year of Semicon West. But SemiCon China is now our biggest show. So some things follow regional dynamics. Right now, there's a tremendous amount of investment in China. But in the U.S. area, there's innovation, and it's all about design, and this is where Silicon Valley is, and Apple, and you have a tremendous ecosystem of what's really going to be the next killer app, where is IoT moving, and a lot of those things are getting defined here. So each region has its own rhythms and its own interests, and it's absolutely driven by the exhibitors and the attendees and what they want.
Yeah, well, it looks like it's been a great show. Hopefully the success continues. Thanks for talking to me, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
So there we go. I want to say that was a very interesting series of interviews you did, Phil, with Peter Gillespie, and I want to thank you for taking part as our West Coast correspondent and founder of Scoop Communications, of course. And I'm sure you're going to be taking part, I hope, in more of these going forward. Thank you for
Yeah, I think it's a really nice concept, Trevor. I look forward to talking to you on Facebook again. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay, now we're moving across the pond to the other side, into the UK, where our UK-Ireland news editor, Dave Burford, has got all the latest news that's happening across the world.
Top news stories this week. My name is David Burford. SMT Wertheim have launched an energy efficiency system. The energy consumption module provides an overview of the power consumption at various stages of the process. The data is displayed on the software and can be retrofitted easily to all other SMT systems, including reflow soldering, vacuum soldering, temperature treatment, curing and drying. The current performance, the current average fuel consumption since the last reset, and the entire average consumption are displayed. Using this information, the price per kilowatt hour cost can be calculated. AOI comprises 3 basic building blocks: lighting, software and cameras. Rudolph Technologies has discovered a process whereby the organic material in advanced packaging will fluoresce. Clearfind technology incorporates high sensitivity sensor technology, a dual inline system and fluorescence illumination. It includes a coarse Z-focus system that allows the optics to stay in the optimum focus range, while the focus system which continuously measures the local topography as it scans the wafer and adjusts focus automatically. This unique methodology allows Clearfind to rapidly move the imaging objective and slowly move the optical head to maintain sharp focus throughout the inspection. Maintaining focus is critical for high resolution of highly warped wafers. Using Clearfind, the system is capable of capturing organic defects at or below 1 micron. Seika's Chinese subsidiary, Seika Electronics, has doubled the size of their technical support team in the first half of 2016 and is looking to continue the trend in the near term. The Seika support team provide 24/7 technical support to the installed base in China and is able to supply application programs and fixtures directly from their Chinese offices. Seika began the current expansion program in 2015 with the opening of an additional centre in Guangzhou. Another step will be completed when the Suzhou Tech Centre moves into its new offices this month, effectively doubling the currently available space. Technology can be awkward. Our pockets are weighed down with ever larger smartphones that are a pain to pull out when we're in a rush, and attempts to make our devices more easily accessible with smartwatches are so far fallen flat. But what if a part of your body could become your computer, with a screen on your arm and maybe even a direct link to your brain? Artificial electronic skin, or e-skin, could one day make this a possibility. Researchers are developing bendable and even stretchable electronic circuits that can be applied directly to the skin. As well as turning your skin into a touchscreen, this could also replace feeling if you've suffered burns or problems with your nervous system. The simplest version of this technology is essentially an electronic tattoo. In 2004, researchers in the US and Japan unveiled a pressure sensor circuit made from pre-stretched, thinned silicon strips that could be applied to the forearm. But inorganic materials such as silicon are rigid and the skid is flexible and stretchy. So researchers are now looking to electronic circuits made from organic materials, usually special plastics or forms of carbon such as graphene that conduct electricity, as the basis of e-skin. That's it for this week. Check back with me next week for more top stories from around the electronics world.
So there you have it. That's it for this week. Thanks, Dave, for a great report from the UK. If you're in the business of wave soldering or selective soldering, please remember to join our free webinar on July 28th. It will be hosted by Bob Klenke and his panelists. But for now, this is Trevor Galbraith saying thanks for joining us and have a great week.